Hey everyone, welcome back to Mike's Movie Talk, the show where we talk about movies. I'm Mike Myers, and I have a very special guest with me today, Anna Rich. And today we're going to be talking about Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Now, this is a very divisive movie for some people. Some people say, oh, it's a lot better than Episode 1, which was also a very divisive movie. And some people say it's also the worst Star Wars movie ever. So we've got a lot to talk about this movie. What are some of your general thoughts on Attack of the Clones?
Attack of the Clones is my favorite Star Wars movie.
Okay.
The prequels are my favorite Star Wars movies. I just think that everything else is a bit of the same. It's all, we're fighting rebellions, we're doing underground movements. But the prequels are all about democracy and political warfare. And they're just, you get to see all these like intricate working cities and civilizations. And I just think it's more fulfilling, like universe world building wise than the rest of them.
Exactly. And we can talk more about the world building and stuff later. But yeah, I mean, like, it's one thing I really admire about the prequels in general is that, George Lucas set out to do something really different, something that he wanted to do, and make this entire world. He didn't, I mean, I'm sure he cared about what people thought, but, this was his vision, and he was going to accomplish it, however any means possible.
Yeah.
But, it really sets itself apart from both the original and the sequel trilogies, I feel like, for the better.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think they're excellent.
I do too. I also am a fan of the prequels. But just some background info on Attack of the Clones. It's the second movie in the prequel trilogy after Phantom Menace and before Revenge of the Sith. Came out in 2002. Of course, it was written and directed by George Lucas. And it's set 10 years after the events of the Phantom Menace, where Jedi Knights Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi, as well as Senator Padme Amidala, they're all, doing their own thing, and the galaxy finds itself at the beginning of the Clone Wars, which the Clone Wars, is a very explored era in the Star Wars universe, which we can get into that later, but it really just sets off this whole era in the Star Wars universe. But I was gonna say too, like, Attack of the Clones, it really finds itself in a weird place in the prequel trilogy, because like I said before, some people say it's worse than Episode 1 or better. Some people say it's the worst of the prequels. What do you think in terms of like comparing it to the other prequel movies?
I think it's the best simply because this movie is about Princess Amidala and Princess Amidala alone. This is her love story. Well, yeah, Senator Amidala at this point. This is about her love story. This is about her prerogative of voting no because she's a pacifist. This is about uncovering the plot to kill her. Everything is about her. And I think if all of the prequels were like that, maybe they would have done better.
It really drives the entire plot of this movie, basically.
Yeah.
Because she's the target of this assassination attempt, and then through that, like, the whole galaxy-wide war and espionage is uncovered and everything. So it really is, all about her.
Here's the thing about these movies. I watched Star Wars for the first time, like, every single one that had ever come out when I was, like, 6. My dad was like, we're going to spend a whole weekend and binge all of them. But because I'm 6... he wanted me to understand it, so he did it chronologically.
I started with Episode 1?
Yes, I watched the prequels before the original trilogy.
Okay.
And I don't know, something about Natalie Portman just ignited something in my brain when I was 6 years old, and now I have an attachment to this movie.
Yeah. But that is an interesting way to, like, introduce that, I feel like. Because I was probably, like, 7 when I watched Star Wars for the first time, and I watched it. We actually started with Episode 5 because they didn't have Episode 4 at Walmart. They didn't have the DVD. Yeah. So I watched the originals first and then the prequels. And at first, being a critically minded 7-year-old, which is to say, not where I am now, I was like, what are the prequels? I don't understand. Who's this Anakin guy? I don't get what's going on. I just like Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, But my opinion has radically changed over the past, more than a decade.
Yeah, I think it's also kind of because, once again, I was 6.
Yeah.
And, like, most of Star Wars is soldiers and generals and everything like that. And, you know, Princess Leia was a princess, and she was cool, but Princess Amidala was a princess. And then she was a senator, and I thought that was so cool, because at the time, I thought our government was the president, and that was it. So,
well, she was the queen, too, the queen of Naboo.
She was the queen at one point. But I don't know. I just thought she's a good role model for young girls.
Oh, for sure.
And I fell in love with her. And that's that. It's
so
the best movie, period, just because of her.
We're going to talk about her, and we're going to talk about a lot more stuff just about this movie. But, you know, it did have to do a lot of, like, there's a lot of catching up between, you know, you go from episode 1 and then to episode 3. Episode 3 is the end of the Clone Wars. Mm-hmm. And so episode 3 is all about, like, you know, concluding the prequel saga and connecting it with the original trilogy where Anakin falls to the dark side. You know, the whole galaxy changes. All these terrible things happen. The Jedi are wiped out, you know. So it has to go from episode 1 where, you know, Anakin's a little boy and all of this stuff is really just beginning, and it's got to fill in all this information. So there's a lot in this movie that happens. I mean, sometimes, you know, I feel like it can drag on too long, or there's a lot introduced in the movie, and then, you know, it's kind of just like the weird middle child, I feel like. You may not feel that way, but...
To me, it's the catching fire of the prequel trilogy.
Oh, okay.
But, because I think there's just so many things about it. It creates, first of all, the world building.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
But it kind of solidifies the trio a little more, I feel like.
Like Anakin, Obi-Wan,
yes,
Padme?
because there's a set trio of every single trilogy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And we, like, I don't know, we have to flesh out Anakin because he was the child in the first one. You can't be a main character if you're 10 years old, I'm sorry. But not in Star Wars, at least. And it kind of, I don't know how to explain it. It kind of fleshes him out to, like, his hopes and dreams and junk like that. But more so, we get to see, they do the early building in this movie for him to be evil.
Yeah.
And we understand, it's driven by love. He's breaking all the rules because he's in love with Natalie Portman, because who wouldn't be?
Yeah, I know.
And
right?
he's slaughtering villages because they killed his mom, which valid. Yeah. But it's still not allowed. He's going through a lot of crap.
Yeah. I also want to talk about the excellent cast of this movie. And some of the choices in the movie that may have led to their performances being diminished somewhat, which you look confused, so I'll get to this. Obviously, you know, it's a very talented cast: Ewan McGregor, Natalie Portman. How do we feel about Hayden Christensen?
I think he's like the actor, or how he played in this.
How he played in this, yeah, okay. Not him personally.
You know, I think he really gets it. Anakin Skywalker is just a whiny teenage boy, just simping after Natalie Portman. That's it.
Yeah.
Most of you have been that teenage boy before, and I think he does a great job. He's constantly complaining. Mm-hmm. He's love bombing Natalie Portman at the same time.
Yeah.
I think he encapsulates it great, and I don't know. I love the banter in anything Star Wars between Obi-Wan and Anakin. So
yeah.
I thought he did great. You're supposed to be annoyed at him.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree. You know, and especially with Ewan McGregor, Natalie Portman. You know, they're obviously very talented. Have been in a lot of other different roles in different movies. I think, you know, part of the thing is George Lucas's dialogue. You know, a lot of people have said, especially with the prequels, it's very cliche. It's like, you know, there's not a lot happening there. It's very surface level. Yeah. And you know, when Natalie Portman gets the line to say, you know, what is it? what is a cringy line she says in there? Like
a few.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's a few. You know, there's not much that they can do with that, I don't feel like, you know, and
my excuse for it.
Yeah.
Because I recognize it's there.
Yeah.
My excuse for it is because it's not underground movement, rebellion, like everything else, it can be just meaningless talk. Because we still have a civilization around us. Like, it's not as dire as everything else usually is.
Yeah.
So, because, I mean, I'll talk to people and we'll just say meaningless crap to each other and then leave.
That is a
That's
good point,
the dialogue
though. It
in
doesn't
this.
all have to be, you know,
exactly.
just like super deep and everything. But this is going off on a tangent. I don't know if you've seen Andor or not. Have you seen
I
that?
haven't. That's the only one I haven't seen yet.
Okay, yeah. So that, I was going to say, you know, is a great example of, you know, I mean, it's dealing with the rebellion, like you said, but like, you know, a Star Wars show, and that's, you know, up there. I mean, I love the Clone Wars TV show because I grew up with that, but Andor is really, really high at the top of that list, just because of just the, I guess because it's a TV show, it has more time to develop the characters and the dialogue and everything like that, but I think that's a super great example of just, you know, deep, rich dialogue and world building and subtlety and everything, but that's besides the point. But yeah, so I was gonna say a little bit about like George Lucas as a director. I'm not sure if you're familiar with like some of the.
No.
I've seen a lot of clips online where in documentaries and stuff, behind the scenes things, where he's probably not the most helpful of a director if like to an actor, you know, if you're like, you know, what can I do to make this more, you know, compelling or anything. Because there were stories of him on the original trilogy just saying to actors, being like, okay, that was good, just faster and more intense. And that was it. And they're like, okay, you know, I mean, so I don't know, like, not to discredit George Lucas in any way, because he's like one of the most notable filmmakers ever. But just like, he's probably not, I don't know what the word for it is, not especially, like, he knows what he wants, but he's not good at telling other people. You know, it's just, I don't know. That may have had an effect on the dialogue. You know, there's the infamous, I don't like sand.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
Stuff like that. I don't know. But I'm getting to see, you know, once you're talking about like, you know, oh, he's supposed to be a whiny brat and he's, you know, the relationship is not supposed to be perfect. I'm getting to see, you know, some of that. I mean, even though it may not be perfect dialogue, it definitely comes across in the way you're saying it.
He's like 18.
Yeah, that's the thing too.
We were all whiny and stupid when we were 18.
Well,
some of us still are.
And I've seen people online defend it too and saying like, you know, if you look at Anakin and how he's been brought up too, he's an 18-year-old. He's not allowed any attachments.
Exactly.
You know, he sees Natalie Portman in first time in 10 years. He's like, holy cow.
Yeah, he met one girl, one pretty girl when he was 10 years old, and he is hyper-fixated on her since then.
Yeah, he probably does not get out and talk to a lot of people. He probably has underdeveloped social skills.
Yeah.
You know, as a
Obi-Wan is his only
Jedi.
friend.
Yeah, Obi-Wan's his only friend, and like his dad basically, and he's always telling him what to do. So I mean, you can see how, realistically, if someone was put in that situation, they probably would react.
Yeah, if you shipped me off to Italy, which is where Naboo was filmed with a pretty girl, no adult supervision, I'm gonna be stupid.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, another thing here, I feel like I'm really dogging out this movie, but we can talk about all the crazy things that happen in the plot. But I did want to shout out, you know, just the technology of this film, because this film came out over 20 years ago at this point, which is crazy. And so another thing that, you know, I admire about George Lucas is, you know, his dialogue may not be the best in the world, but his ambition and his like imagination to like push the filmmaking technology forward is something that's really cool. Kind of like, you know, James Cameron with Avatar movies and stuff like that. But there's a lot of things in this movie that we take for granted today, just in like major blockbusters and really a lot of movies. This was the first major film to be shot entirely with digital cameras.
Yes.
Which we don't even think about today. We're just like, yeah, everything's shot on digital. But back then it was like, you know, why would you ever shoot on digital? I mean, film is the way to go. You know, but the technology just didn't exist back then up until this movie was made to like do that feasibly. Because I think George Lucas said he wanted to shoot Phantom Menace all digitally, but there literally was not a camera that existed where he could do that. So, and that has a lot of benefits with like the visual effects and like the post-production, and, you know, putting in compositing, all sorts of stuff like that compared to film. There's just less steps and it's easier. but like, you know, the complex CG characters in this movie.
There was one moment when I was watching it where I was like, ooh, but that was it.
There's really,
like, it's really good for its time. There's one moment where they're like talking to younglings and there's these like weird morphed alien faces on these children.
Oh yeah.
But that's fine. They showed it for 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And that's it. Everything else, like a flying car chase scene, like this is Tokyo Drift.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you look at like the behind the scenes of this stuff, especially with the more like, well, really, most of it is, I mean, I know they go to the real locations like Italy and stuff like you said there. I think they went to like Tunisia for Tatooine. But a lot of it is total green screen. They're acting in just a box of green, which back then was pretty crazy to do that, and to be able to come out with the results that they did and make it look that good, you know. Another thing I was going to ask is like, do the effects hold up? Do you think they do?
I think they do.
Yeah.
For a movie made in, what, 2004?
2002.
2002?
Yeah.
Oh, 2004 is the other one, I think.
Oh, I think Revenge of the Sith was like, yeah, that was Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, I was fully immersed. I was good.
Yeah.
The aliens looked real. The flying car chase scene.
Yeah.
Just all of it. The scene where they're on the planet Camino and it's just a full ocean surrounding it.
Yeah.
That looked great. I don't know what these people are talking about.
Well, and one thing I didn't know until a few years ago is that all of the clones are CG too. They're not real people.
I could tell a little bit on that.
Yeah. Now, I mean, now that you go back and look,
that makes sense.
But that fooled me, you know, for years when I'm watching it as a kid. You know, I just thought they were just a bunch of extras, you know, in clone trooper suits. But that was a big. I mean, I'm sure that was a huge challenge. And then getting what's the actor's name? I should know this. Tamara Morrison's face on the clones, because it was essentially like, I think it was when they put the helmets on, because it was his real face and then CG bodies.
Yeah.
That was in Revenge of the Sith. Anyway, I'm getting off track. But yeah, I mean, I really do think the effects hold up. You know, over 20 years later. Yeah. So the plot, a lot happens in this movie. Lots of crazy things. A lot less Jar Jar in this movie.
Thank God. Okay, when I was younger, I thought he was fun and cool.
Yeah.
His voice is annoying now, but like, I thought he was fun. He adds nothing to the plot of this movie except to screw it up.
I mean, they completely cut Jar Jar out of the. Well, they really didn't plan for Jar Jar to be in this movie really much anyway. But he's barely in the movie. He's in it for like 2.5 minutes. Yeah.
Just to screw up the plot of the next movie.
Yeah. So what does he do in this movie
There's such an intricate political plot in this movie.
I think in all of the prequels there is.
Yeah, that's why I love them.
Yeah.
But essentially, people are trying to kill Padme because Padme's a pacifist and wants to use her Senate vote to vote against the Military Defense Act, which is essentially the clone army. Now, they have to whisk her away before she can do the vote, and then we find out, oh, there's this droid army, Count Dooku and the Separatists are about to get us. What are we going to do? Padme isn't here to vote. So Junior Representative Jar Jar Binks of Naboo, who Padme put into the position of power to take care of things, was like, okay, I'll do an emergency vote and I'll vote for not Count Dooku, Senator Palpatine. That's not what he's called either.
Chancellor Palpatine.
Chancellor Palpatine to get emergency powers over the entire government.
Not a good move, Jar Jar.
And so the Sith Lord ruled the entire Republic and all of the clone army.
Okay, so I mean, so if Jar Jar did not do that,
they did manipulate him though.
Yeah, I mean,
the blue horn guy.
The blue horn.
How was he to know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they were possibly all being manipulated by Palpatine with his dark side influences somehow.
With his vibes.
With his vibes. The dark side flows through everything, as Yoda says. But yeah, if Jar Jar did not do that, the whole Star Wars saga would have been different.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think
We
about.
have to have a fall guy. And the world hated Jar Jar so much that he became it.
Yeah. I do feel like, and here I go dogging out this movie again. I'm sorry. But I feel like, okay, so episode 1, there were some really great moments in episode 1.
Yeah.
You know, like the battle between Darth Maul and Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon was just spectacular. I really liked the pod race scene in that movie. There were really good moments, and there were also just really crap moments in episode 1. I feel like there's really not any in this movie. I feel like there's a few key standout scenes, but most of it is kind of middling. I don't know.
Okay, so
I feel like you disagree with that.
this movie is about political warfare.
Yeah.
We have assassination attempts, and those chase scenes are fun. Once again,
That was fun, yeah.
Tokyo drifting through the sky.
Yeah.
And
I just love Coruscant in general.
I do
Just throw it
too.
out, yeah.
It's so sick.
Yeah.
But we have the gladiator arena scene, which is one of my favorite fight scenes in all of Star Wars. Because
Yeah.
I thought the cat thing with a possum tail was really cool too.
Oh, the Nexu.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
And also Princess Amidala once again was fighting her way because she's not just a senator. But oh God, what else? First of all, the entire end of the movie is the first ever battle of the Clone Wars.
I know. I love the Battle of Geonosis.
And there's also the scene where Yoda absolutely whoops
Oh,
Count
yeah.
Dooku.
I mean, you have to think at this point, like, audiences had never seen Yoda basically do anything in terms of combat.
They had him in a little pram
So-
floating down the hallway.
Yeah.
During just conversation scenes.
Oh, yeah.
And he
So-
walks in with a cane.
I mean, it's cool that that they were able to put that in there, you know, just show how powerful Yoda really is. But yeah, there is a lot of cool scenes in this movie.
Star Wars is a soap opera.
It is.
It's a soap opera.
It's a very political
And this
soap
is
opera.
one of the soapiest ones, and I love it. This is a rom-com.
A rom-com.
It is a rom-com.
Interesting. Okay.
Because we have two plots. We have Obi-Wan Kenobi PI.
Yeah,
Just-
Mr. Detective.
Just putting all of the work in, going from place to place, and then we have a vacay in the Lake Country of Italy, or Naboo is where they are, which is my favorite Star
Yeah.
Wars planet. And they're literally rolling around in fields,
I
making
know.
out,
Yeah.
visiting his family.
There-
This is a Hallmark movie.
I mean, have you seen? I don't know if you've seen like some of the deleted scenes of this movie.
Yes,
have you?
where she brings him to have dinner with her family.
Yeah, and they're talking about like he's in her bedroom and they're looking at like pictures on the wall and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah, I wish they would have kept those.
This
in
is a
there.
rom-com. Maybe that's why I like it so much.
I was gonna ask you too, like about Anakin and Padme's, growing relationship in this movie. And one of the questions I had was like, so why is Padme so like, why does she fall for him so much?
That's
I
such a good
guess?
question.
Yeah.
You know, I ask myself that a lot too, because
Just periodically. throughout the day.
I think it's the same way with him, where he had this attachment to her when he was very young.
Yeah.
And it was a very dire situation, and he kind of held on to that attachment when he saw her again. Oh,
Yeah.
this love I have for you in this way is back, and I don't communicate with anyone except my father and my
yeah,
teachers.
it's understandable for Anakin, but
Yeah.
like,
But Padme is the same way. Like, yes, she was the queen of Naboo when they first met, but they were also still kids.
oh yeah.
And they went through this dire situation together. And then she grows up 10 years later, and she's a senator, and she's doing all this political stuff. She has no boyfriends. She has no nothing. She's
Yeah.
just doing government junk all day, every day, and trying not to die. And so when they're shoved together, her love for her and her way comes back then. And they're quarantined together in Naboo. Like,
That's true. Yeah.
they might as well have fun.
I'm just saying, I'm trying to look at it from Padme's perspective here, like,
She could do better, but
yeah.
she could do better.
She could. There's a lot of red flags with
Yeah.
Mr. Skywalker here. He creeps her out multiple points in the
Yes,
movie.
she's like,
where
you're
she's
making
like-
me uncomfortable.
Yeah, she's like, don't look at me that way. He's like, sorry, my lady. He's creepy sometimes.
Yeah.
And he's as Obi-Wan says, oh, you're arrogant. He's arrogant towards her. I feel like
no social skills.
No. Well, that's the thing. Then
Yeah.
you go back to like, is it because he has no social skills? Really, could be. And then he's also has violent tendencies, but that's also
Yeah.
because of his trauma with his mom, you
Yeah.
know, stuff like that. And he wants more power as a Jedi, and he feels held back, and just, I mean, there's a lot of internal trauma that he's dealing with, which could explain some, but Padme could do a little better.
She could do so much better.
Yeah.
That's literally my only flaw with the prequel series, is she could do so much better than
Yeah.
Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
But for the sake of the plot,
For the
she
sake of
has
the
to be
plot,
with him.
yeah,
So we
yeah.
have to make excuses. But like, she ignores she's like, those flags look a little orange to me. After he explained how he found his mother dead and then slaughtered men, women, and children.
Oh my
And she was
God.
like, oh no, Annie, I'm so
No.
sorry.
What was she
What do you
thinking
mean?
inside? What was she thinking, do you think?
She was just like, I am in the middle of nowhere. I am in poor people clothes.
I'm in danger.
I'm in danger.
Yeah, but I don't know. There's a lot to think about with that. A lot of back and
I know.
forths with both of them.
Hey, trauma bonding's a hell of a thing.
Yeah. What were some of your like standout moments of this movie? Do you think some of your favorite?
Definitely the gladiator battle, because they were all doing their own thing, and they were
Yeah.
each fighting their own monster, and we got to see like
Yeah, that
how
was
they
cool.
would strategize and how they were doing it in that situation, because none of them had weapons either.
Yeah, yeah,
They were just hand-to-hand combat with these creatures.
yeah.
I really liked all the separatist meeting scenes.
Really?
Yes, because I like piecing apart all of the different systems in Star Wars and trying to figure out, okay, this warlord is connected to this and this warlord
Yeah.
is
I
connected
mean,
to
it's really
this.
complicated when you think
Yes,
about it.
because it's like, okay, so Count Dooku's got all of the evil planets together, which
Yeah, well,
is
that's the
which is a great metaphor because it's like the banking clan,
Yeah,
the Trade
yeah,
Federation,
uh-huh.
the Trade Federation who put a hit out on Princess Amidala.
yeah.
Just everybody bad. The like tech division, which is
Yeah, the Techno
which
Union.
is the Techno Union who are like actively building a Death Star.
Yeah, yeah. It's the what's it called? The Confederacy of Independent Systems, or the.
That's what it is,
Yeah,
okay.
those are all the separatists.
Yeah.
That, I mean, that when you really lay it out, you know, and explain stuff like that, it really is interesting if you're a big Star Wars fan. You
Yeah.
know? Which you know, the Clone Wars too.
Yes.
Really fleshes some of that out. I think really does that in a really fantastic way. And I mean, people say, oh, it's a kid's show. It is, but it also, you know, expands on the world. You know, there's so much world building, and you know, by the end of the Clone Wars, you know, it's just like it just gets really intense.
Yeah,
you know, and
that's-
it's like it's amazing.
That was my favorite thing about the Clone Wars, besides
Yeah.
Ahsoka. Like it was
Early
the
Ahsoka.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
the political warfare. I don't know. I thought it was great. I enjoyed it more than like most of the action stuff that they did. And I
Yeah.
think that's why I'm so obsessed with the prequels is because every other Star Wars movie is just an action movie.
Yeah.
There's a big bad and we
There's-
got to fight them.
There's no delving into the deeper
Yeah.
allegiances and any
Yes.
stuff like that. Yeah, I totally agree.
I just think it's more complex, but
Oh, for sure. I think so. I mean, you know, I think so too, in a lot of ways. One of my favorite things I was going to say is, or like an intriguing scene, I guess, is when Count Dooku informs, when Obi-Wan's like held hostage, he tells Obi-Wan, you know, the Senate is in control, or there's a Sith Lord in control of the Galactic Senate.
yeah. And Obi-Wan's like, I would
Obi-Wan's
know.
like,
I would know.
Yeah, he's like, that can't be real. And I think Count Dooku is a really intriguing character, which gets into like, you know, his backstory because he was once a Jedi and he was Qui-Gon's master. And so he is one of those, I mean, obviously he had disagreements with the Jedi because he's now a Sith Lord, but just like, you know, I wish there was more time in this movie to develop like those kind of character developments, which they do in the Clone Wars and stuff.
Yeah.
But just, I think he's a really intriguing character. And that scene, there's a lot of scenes like that that kind of hint at like the deeper allegiances, I guess, and then how just the whole Jedi is just blinded by, like, no one can see that the Chancellor is really a Sith Lord until it's way too late.
My thing about Dooku is like, when you kind of take these characters and like, good and evil don't really matter when you get a better job offer. And I feel like
Oh, wow,
I feel
that's a
like
good quote.
that's Count Dooku's thing is like,
Yeah,
you know, we're learning all
totally.
these things with the Jedi Order, but these things that I want, like power and to know like these abilities, they're telling me I can't do. But I have a different job offer here where I can get all of these things and I can be a Sith Lord with my own little army. I think I'm going to go do that.
That's a great way of putting it. Have you seen Tales of the Jedi on Disney Plus? You would love that. It's like it's in the style of the Clone Wars animated series, like CG, and they have a whole arc. I mean, they're only like 15-minute episodes, but 3 episodes on Count Dooku's past, where they have him on a mission with Qui-Gon, and then they have him like 10 years later about his more distrust in the Jedi Order, and he's going on a mission with Mace Windu. And Mace Windu's like, oh, the goody two-shoes Jedi, and then Count Dooku's like, well, wait a minute, you know, there are things about the Jedi that, you know, there's flaws here, and I disagree with some of these things. What can I do about that? And
Leave.
Leave. And then the next episode, and not to spoil, but is him planning his retirement, or I mean, I guess not retirement,
Good for him.
for the Jedi Order. It's really good. I think you'd really like those. It's on Disney Plus, Tales of the Jedi, but just really dives into more of
Good for him.
that
You know
character.
what? Better pay,
I know.
more
yeah.
fun.
He probably
401k.
is getting paid a lot more.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, Darth Sidious has got a lot of money to spread around with him being Chancellor.
Yeah, and he's like homies with Dark Sidious.
Oh,
so
There you go. I was going to say one more thing about the music of this movie, which is just incredible. You know, John Williams, once again, returns from all the other Star Wars movies. With one thing about John Williams is just, this isn't to do with Episode 2, but he's 90 years old.
is he?
As of now, yes. And I think he's almost 91. And he said that the upcoming Indiana Jones movie, which comes out, I think, in June of this year, he said that was going to be his last film score, and then he's going to retire. Well, now he's changed his mind, and now he's going to do it as long as he sees fit, I guess, because he's just
for
that
him.
dedicated. I know. I mean, what dedication and, like, you know, how inspired this man is to just keep making great work.
He's like not doing anything else. Might as well.
I know, really. When you're 90 years old, not doing anything else. I've done great work for, you know, 60 odd years, you know, just keep going. But Across the Stars is a wonderful,
It's just
a wonderful track of this movie. If you've
Yes.
not listened to Across the Stars, go to the Episode 2 soundtrack. Listen to that. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple Music, whatever.
a love song for the ages.
I love that. It's so good.
This movie's a rom-com.
It is.
It is.
I think you've convinced me it is.
It's a rom-com. It's an excellent rom-com. But
A rom-com for the ages.
exactly. The costuming in this movie is excellent. Trisha Bigger, who does costuming for like a lot of smaller shows. She does it for Outlander now. She did for a TV show called like Emerald City, which was based off The Wizard of Oz. All her costuming is gorgeous. She did all of the prequel movies, and I think she really shines, and I wish she would get more work because the hairstyling and the dresses that they are putting Natalie Portman in these movies are just otherworldly. And this is another reason why this is my favorite movie.
Yeah.
Because it's got some of the best looks out of the entire Star Wars universe.
They really ramped it up when you think about it. From like the
Yes.
original trilogy, way further, you know, just the elaborate costume design is just crazy.
Like, this is
Yeah.
a Disney princess. That's
Yeah.
why I thought she was so cool, is because she literally was a princess
Yeah.
on my screen with all these different, like, giant drapey, flowy gowns. And these weird, they have a thing about, Trisha Bigger has a thing about veils. Where almost
okay.
every single outfit, she's either got a headpiece on or she's got some
Yeah.
sort of lace veil that's covering half her body. And it's so sick. These movies, I just love these movies.
No, yeah, they're so valid.
It's the main ones, whoever's editing these, put these pictures up. It's the gown where her back is open and it's like this gradient pink and blue pattern. And then her wedding dress with that
The
like
wedding dress,
cap
yeah.
veil going down is so, and I also love her little fighting outfit because
It's like it turns into a crop top, like magically.
It does.
Yeah.
Which is so killer.
It is. I don't know how like the next few did that, where it's just like perfectly cut, but yeah.
It's like every single Star Wars female has to have an all-white fight ensemble.
Really? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, when you think about it.
And she did it best.
Oh yeah, I agree with that.
I'm in love with Natalie Portman.
What was the quote? Something about aggressive negotiations. My mind's.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Is this what you call diplomatic? Or
a diplomatic solution.
Yes.
I call it aggressive negotiations.
Yeah, period. That's a rom-com moment.
Yeah. This could be a Hallmark movie.
It really could. And then Obi-Wan just running himself ragged the whole time.
Poor Obi-Wan.
I know, poor Obi-Wan.
He's doing his best.
He said, I need you to babysit and not cause any problems. They fall in love and then immediately go to the death ring that Obi-Wan is at.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I assume that he's glad that they came. Because they showed up and then he was like, or Anakin was like, oh, we came here to rescue you, Master. And he's like, good job.
No, you did great.
Yeah. But I really like their dynamic throughout this movie too, and Revenge of the Sith too.
Yeah.
Just that, you can tell that they've been together for years and just have that bond, but also the conflict too. But something else that's cool about this movie.
I thought the Jango Fett stuff was the weakest point of this movie.
Really?
Like, I like it, and I thought it was really sick to have Boba Fett connected in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like, okay.
Yeah.
It's neat that he was one of the clones, and that's why Boba looks like that, but who cares?
Yeah. Have you watched the Book of Boba Fett?
I have.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
I think it's sick, and oh God, what's her name? When Bo-Katan is like making fun of him, and she's like, just some clone is talking back at me.
Yeah,
he was one of the OGs, girl.
I know.
He was the OG's, like, he was genetically modified to be the OG's son. He's special.
Yeah. I mean, he is a clone, but he's not one of the, like, the clones meant for battle, like, age twice as fast.
He has the original lore.
He is, yes. He is the OG.
He has the full story.
Yeah.
He does a mean Obi-Wan Kenobi impression.
Hello there.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is. That's my, like, go-to Obi-Wan line.
Yeah, I forgot that was in the third one because I was watching it and I was like, oh, he's gonna get to do the little impression of the thing. And it got through the whole thing. I'm like, Gino Grievous isn't in this. What am I thinking?
No. So, big takeaway, Anna.
Big takeaway. This is a rom-com / detective movie.
One of the best you've ever seen.
One of the best I've ever seen. This was my catching fire at the age of 6. Natalie Portman is a revelation, as always. The costuming went hard. The soundtrack was incredible.
Yeah.
I love anything political intrigue, political warfare. That's what sets this apart from the rest of the Star Wars universe. It's actually a complex, dynamic plot that's not just big bad, we need weapons, we're gonna fight them. It's so much more than that. I
actually wrote a paper on for Dr. Hersey's class on how Palpatine manipulated the Republic in order to
that's so
give
sick.
him more power for his master plan and everything.
Yeah. Can I read that?
Yes.
That's actually really
send it
sick.
to you. Yeah. So, I also appreciate the various political
right?
undercurrents.
There's so much more to the Star Wars universe than dusty little marketplaces that we see in everywhere else, or just these warehouses that are supposed to be ships. No, I don't want to always be in space. We don't always need to be in space. We can have these beautiful landscapes and beautiful civilizations and how they work and like their governments. And you don't get that anywhere else. And that's why Attack of the Clones is the best.
I'm so glad you said that because I feel the exact same way. Just
good.
That is you summed it up just like
we have another
immaculately. Yeah. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Anna, so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And talking about this incredible rom-com detective drama piece of a movie
Starring.
that is Attack of the Clones, starring
Natalie Portman.
Natalie Portman, girl boss.
Just Natalie Portman.
Just only Natalie Portman. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.